Hello students, and welcome to section 2-3, conditional statements. If-then statements. An if-then statement is a statement such as, if you are reading this page, then you are studying math. A statement that can be written in if-then form is called a conditional statement. The phrase immediately following the word if is the hypothesis. The phrase immediately following the word then is the conclusion. A conditional statement can be represented in symbols. As P and then an arrow, which means then, as they'll explain here, also implies. So if P, then Q, which is read P implies Q, or if P, then Q, as I indicated. This notation will be very useful in the sense of us kind of using a shorthand when we're doing a long string of problems, let's say. So please be mindful of that. But if-then statements are very, very crucial in a lot of what we do, not just in geometry and really not just in math classes per se, but in everyday life. We use if-then statements all the time. Example 1. Identify the hypothesis and conclusion of the conditional statement. If angle X is congruent to angle R and angle R is congruent to angle S, then angle X is congruent to angle S. The hypothesis is all of the information that follows the word if. The conclusion is all the information that follows the word then. Example 2. Identify the hypothesis and conclusion. Write the statement in if-then form. You receive a free pizza with 12 coupons. So if, and then the hypothesis, you have 12 coupons, then conclusion, you receive a free pizza. So this is a nice representation of rewriting the sentence here in such a way where it's nicely conveyed as an if-then statement with a hypothesis that you can clearly see here, as well as a conclusion. Exercises. Identify the H hypothesis and C conclusion of each conditional statement. So number 1, I have here, if it is Saturday, hypothesis, if it is Saturday, so please underline that and write H. Then there is no school. Write C, as there is no school is your conclusion. If you're rewriting these sentences out, that's fine. If you have the ability to print off the notes as I've described in the past, then you can just underline like I'm doing here. Number 2, if x minus 8 equals 32, there's your hypothesis. Then x minus 40, underline that, that's your conclusion. Number 3, if a polygon has 4 right angles, hypothesis, then the polygon is a rectangle, conclusion. So we're differentiating hypothesis and conclusion simply just from what the words if and then are allowing for. Write each statement in if-then form. Number 4, all apes love bananas. If an animal is an ape, then it loves bananas. So we're taking a statement that doesn't look like an if-then and we're putting it in that particular form. Number 5, the sum of the measures of complementary angles is 90. If 2 angles are complements or complementary, I abbreviated a little bit. You can also use some numbers and symbols if you'd like to help you. Then the sum of their measures is 90. Number 6, if points are collinear, then they lie on the same line. Now I went in the opposite direction here, but can you interpret, let's say, this if-then using the original problem now in context? So if this is what you read, are you able to see that it in fact speaks to collinear points lying on the same line? Next, determine the truth values of each conditional statement. If true, explain your reasoning. If false, give a counterexample. So number 7, if today is Wednesday, I underline the hypothesis, then yesterday was Friday. There's your conclusion. Now think about this, folks. If today is Wednesday and they say yesterday is Friday, how could that be true? Of course, yesterday is not Friday. Yesterday, the day before Wednesday, is Tuesday. So this is false. So what it says here, when the hypothesis is true, the conclusion is false. One thing that I've noted below, though, is a counterexample. Okay, a counterexample, if you recall, is one situation that disproves things. So a counterexample would be, if today is Wednesday, then yesterday is always Tuesday. So when you make this statement, you're essentially saying that obviously the statement is not true. So the counterexample is why it's a false statement. Number 8, if A is positive, then 10A is greater than A. Okay, so I'm saying that it's true, but why? Well, when the hypothesis is true, the conclusion is true, okay, of course, but here's something to consider. When A is greater than 0, or when A is positive, in other words, quite literally any positive number you can imagine, if you multiply any positive number you can imagine times 10, it's always going to be bigger than the positive number when you don't multiply it times 10. I mean, pick a number like 1. When A is 1, 10 times 1, which is 10, is certainly greater than 1. So this is not a counterexample per se. As a matter of fact, it's proving that it's true in every single case. There is not one counterexample that we can come up with that disproves this true statement. Next page. Converse, inverse, and contrapositive. If you change the hypothesis or conclusion of a conditional statement, you form related conditionals. This chart shows the 3 related conditionals: the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive, and how they are related to a conditional statement. So the typical conditional statement, as we described earlier, is P implies Q, or if P, then Q is another way to say it. It's formed by using the given hypothesis and conclusion. An example, if 2 angles are vertical angles, then they are congruent. Okay, we know this is true actually, right? If 2 angles are vertical angles, then they are congruent. So what the converse does, the converse literally switches P and Q. So instead of if P then Q, it's if Q then P, or Q now implies P. And it says it right here, exchanging the hypothesis and conclusion. So what if we took the same example and we flipped the hypothesis and the conclusion? If 2 angles are congruent, then they are vertical angles. So you switch this with that. Now the other thing you want to consider as we dig deeper into these things is whether or not either of these are true. Okay, I would argue the first example is true. Question is the second example true? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Okay, we're also going to talk about, if there's a counterexample like we've done in the past. And if there's a counterexample, then it's not true. All right, inverse. The inverse is where you take the original conditional and you just put they call it a negation. So this negation of what they say, as you can read here, negation of saying not P, that's what we'll say, implies not Q. So replacing the hypothesis with its negation, so you just take its opposite essentially, and replacing it with, and replacing the conclusion, with the same thing, the negation. How does that look? All right, same original problem. So everybody go back, note, if 2 angles are vertical angles, then they are congruent. If you negate the hypothesis, watch. If 2 angles are not vertical angles, then they are not congruent. Okay? This also we'll dig deeper into later as to whether or not it's a true statement, and dig into, again, counterexamples if need be. Contrapositive is the next type of related conditional, and that's where you take P and Q, like a converse, for example. You flip P and Q, and you also take the negation. So look, not Q implies not P. So it says it here, negating the hypothesis, negating the conclusion, and switching them. All right, so let's take the original example. If 2 angles are vertical, again, then they are congruent. If 2 angles are not congruent, then they are not vertical angles. Just as a conditional statement can be true or false, the related conditionals can also be true or false, as I've already described. A conditional statement always has the same truth value as its contrapositive, and the converse and inverse always have the same truth value. This last bit here is a very important concept that we are going to apply later when we deal with our logic discussion. We're going to have a little mini logic, I guess you could say, unit after this. All right. Next, so write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of each true conditional statement. Determine whether each related conditional is true or false. If a statement is false, find a counterexample. Okay, so if you live in San Diego, then you live in California. Okay, I would argue that this is a true statement to start with. Yes, if you live in San Diego, of course, you also live in California. We're going to go ahead and take the converse, as well as the inverse and contrapositive. Okay, so we'll do this. Excuse me. So the converse is, if you recall, just switching P and Q from the original setup, right? If P then Q now turns into if Q then P. So if you live in California, there you go, then you live in San Diego. Ask yourself if that's a true statement, right? If you live in California, do you have to live in San Diego? The answer is, of course, no. That would be false. You could live in San Francisco, for example. The inverse is when you, again, negate the original hypothesis and the original conclusion. So not P implies not Q. And here's how it reads. If you do not live in San Diego, then you do not live in California. Yet again, that is not true, I would argue, because if you don't live in San Diego, you could still live in San Francisco, and technically, you still live in California. The inverse is the next concept. I apologize. The contrapositive is the next concept to talk about, where it suggests not Q implies not P. So you're flipping and you're negating. So here it is. If you do not live in California, then you do not live in San Diego. Okay, think about whether or not that's true. So if you don't live in California, how could you possibly also live in San Diego? So that's obviously true. So they say it here. The true statements are the contrapositive and the original, of course. The statement, we call it, the statement and the contrapositive. And the false are the converse and inverse statements, the false statements. Okay, number 2 and 3. If a polygon is a rectangle, then it is a square. Okay, so yes, I would even suggest that if you were to draw a picture, that's a good way to kind of help form your understanding on a lot of this, because obviously we're going to be applying this to geometry very soon here. Let's take a look. So the converse, if a polygon is a square, so we're flipping P and Q, then it is a rectangle. Inverse, if a polygon is not a rectangle, then it is not a square. Contrapositive, if a polygon is not a square, then it is not a rectangle. The true statements are the converse and the inverse. The false statements are the original problem and the contrapositive. Okay, so what I've done here is I've drawn a square and I've drawn a rectangle. It is again false that if it's a polygon that is a rectangle, then it's a square. So this rectangle is certainly not a square. But in the other direction, if it's a square, then it's a rectangle. That's actually true. And the reason it is because a square still has 4 sides. It just happens to have all 4 sides congruent, which a rectangle does not. So think about those 2 pictures in the context of why certain statements are true or false, and continue your understanding and reasoning on that as you proceed on that problem. Please finish up number 3 on your own.